welcome to the next episode of the SADDO podcast, the sitcom archive deep dive overdrive, where we're taking a balls deep dive into the 70s sitcom The Good Life. We're up to Series 2, Episode 5, which is, do you know, Ben?
Yeah, it is Mutiny.
Mutiny, it is.
Yeah, that's where we are.
On rewatching, I found that this, I think, is my favourite episode so far of the ones that we've watched.
So far, or of the entire run?
I don't know, because having watched all the series in the past and now revisiting, I'm finding that there's different things by rewatching that I'm enjoying. But this one in particular had me howling out loud, which was wonderful.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was.
That was without even the prompting of audience members giving it oi oi.
Just going back to last week's episode, there was a couple of things that I had to bring to your attention this week. One that's quite useful, one that I didn't really find much about, and they were to do with being bound over after Tom had been arrested for shooting the leek thief in the ass. And I found out that being bound over is there to prevent certain behaviours from reoccurring. It's not a conviction, and they usually use it for low-level public order issues.
Okay. So he won't have a criminal record?
No, it was just to stop you from doing it again. And I think if he'd have done it again, it would have just all started again. The process would have started again, and he'd have gone to prison again if he'd not agreed to be bound over. I wanted to find out what the actual binding over of, whether it was linked to something in the past of, I don't know, having your legs tied together or your arms tied together or something, but I couldn't find anything.
A lot of these things have literal meanings going back, don't they?
That's what I was looking for. And the other thing that I went back to inspect was the price of leeks in Harrods in approximately 1976, which I couldn't find. These things don't exist on Google, like price lists and receipts from Harrods from 1976, unfortunately. Although 1976 was a record-breaking year for hot weather, which could have affected the harvests and therefore could have pushed the prices up, perhaps. So they could have been really expensive leeks that she'd managed to source from Harrods. That
explains why that cretin was pinching them then, doesn't it?
Was pinching them, yeah. If they were like ultra expensive, not only because of the weather, but for Margo, they would have been like through the roof.
Yeah, true. And do you know what? Going back even further than last week's episode, I've had a piece of information from a listener to tell me that Chez Toi.
Yes.
Do you remember Chez Toi? Margo said.
I do remember Chez Toi. Yeah. Is there trouble at Chez Toi?
That means your place.
Ah.
So probably everyone who listened knew that, apart from us, because we speak pidgin French.
Is that your home? Chez Toi?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, your home.
House you? Yeah. Ah, okay. Thanks, guys.
So one thing that we did last week was we challenged each other off air, or, well, we're not on air, are we? Off pod.
Off pod? I like that.
Yeah, off pod. We challenged each other to write a limerick about The Good Life, either the characters or past episodes. Have you managed to do that, Al, or was it just me?
No, I've done two. I managed to do two. I must have had an inspired moment. So yeah. Go on, Ben. You kick us off then.
Do you want me to do mine? Well, actually, mine's 3 verses, so I suppose I got carried away as well. So mine is about a past episode. I'm getting all nervous now.
Oh, see, I put you on the spot, answer. Sorry.
Right, here we go. I'll put on my best reading voice. Yeah! A monstrous lady named Margo insisted on a swine embargo. She banned the goods pigs, drove Tom to his cigs, and packed off the poor little cargo. Could the pigs be saved from their fate, to end up on somebody's plate? While Margo repented, the pig's doom was cemented. Alas, Tom had arrived just too late. Poor Perky was sent to his death, condemned to take his last breath. Turned into sliced bacon, Tom brought home a fakin and pretended that he'd never left.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that. 3 verses to a limerick as well. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, I was pushing it a bit. And in fact, there was more than one pig, but it didn't fit in the form. So he ended up just being Perky who got name checked. Never mind. Sorry about that, Porky. Or what's his name? Pinky?
Perky. Porky.
I'm killing off bloody cartoon pigs now.
Oh, love it.
What was yours then? Have you got one?
Well, mine,
you got two?
Yes, my two, I have one based on one of the characters from last week, the leek thief, and one about Sir as well, which got me a bit in a tangle, the Sir one, because of my accent. And I had to keep reading it out loud to myself because there's certain words that I've rhymed, which probably don't normally rhyme, but you'll get the gist. I might have to just adjust things as I read it out loud. So the one about the leek thief was, there once was a leek thief named Harry who took all the veg he could carry. He decided to run but got shot in the bum, and Tom was as happy as Larry.
Very good. Nice and succinct, unlike mine.
And this next one is about Andy, the boss. There once was a work boss called Sir, whose temper was really unfair. He made Jerry behave like he was a slave, and for Sir, Tom could really not care.
Yeah, very Boltonian.
I kept having to read it though to sort of sense check it, but yeah, I think you get the gist.
Yeah, I think. Don't beat yourself up too much.
No, I won't. It's okay.
It was bloody good, that. Some of the greatest pop songs in history have got very questionable rhymes. I was talking about this the other day. I'm a big Queen fan, and there's a song, Innuendo. Do you know that one?
You hum it.
No, it's not a hummable song, really. But there's a line in it that Freddie Mercury sings, which is, all through our sorrow, all through our splendour, don't take offence at our innuendo.
Right, okay. Just to force in a rhyme.
Bit weak, isn't it?
Oh, well, that's all right, though. I'm up there with Freddie Mercury. That's okay. I can
as far as I'm concerned, yeah. Have you got a 4-octave range when you're delivering limericks?
No, I need to stuff some more teeth in my mouth. But I do have some trousers that look like Eddie Mercury. No, Freddie Mercury.
Eddie Mercury. Is that his less successful brother?
And that's who I'm going to be from now on. Freddie Mercury's less successful brother.
Could be a nom
less
de plume
teeth,
for
better
you.
Pants. Mm.
So if you've got any limericks of your own that you want to share with us, which beat the pants off us, send them to us on Gmail, saddopodcast@gmail.com. Or look us up on social or whatever. Or just don't, because you'll never beat ours.
No, you're not Eddie Mercury.
No.
So let's head off to Series 2, Episode 5, Mutiny, and see what we can find.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
So this episode takes us straight onto the golf course with Sir and Jerry and Tom. And I don't know about you, Ben, but I found Jerry is such an arse licker, and it's so evident in this episode at the start.
At the start and the end, really, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's cringy, isn't it? This opening bit is so cringy. He literally can't get far enough up his arse, and even Tom calls him out and calls him a crawler. Because Jerry's there kicking golf balls into holes and knocking balls out of the rough. But I really enjoyed the fact that Tom just does not give a monkeys about any of this. He's not there anymore to massage Sir's ego, and he's busy getting chestnuts and toadstools and damsons and getting all sorts of stuff that he can take back home as part of his haul, his self-sufficiency haul.
He's totally trying Sir's patience with his extracurricular activities. Sir just wants to play golf, and Jerry just wants to suck up to Sir, whereas Tom's off foraging for magic mushies, isn't he?
Yes, yeah, dangerous.
Probably hoping he can get something to wean him off the ciggies.
And he's even brought a shotgun to get some rabbits.
So much for being bound over.
Oh, straight there with a gun again.
Yeah, exactly. I hope the judge isn't a member of this bloody golf club.
I know. Or it's 28 days after the initial issue, perhaps.
Maybe.
But yeah, he's there with his gun. And at the end of this scene, Sir mentions, sort of like drops into conversation with Jerry that they're going to have to look after some businessmen from Amsterdam.
Oh shit!
That are coming over, and he's expecting.
Amsterdam again.
He's expecting them to put this guy up in their house, which seems to be obviously it's not something that we've seen yet, but this seems to be what Sir does with Jerry. He gets him to get Margo to look after all these people that come over, all these clients, and it's just another example of Jerry being so quick to just be there for the boss and to be a bit of an arse licker.
Yeah, Margo presumably enjoys helping Jerry climb this social ladder as well. Well, not social ladder,
yes.
but the corporate ladder. However, we soon find out, of course, that this is just a case of bad timing for Margo, isn't it?
It's the wrong time. Margo has got, and this has been hinted at for a few weeks now. She has got the opening night of, I forgot what it's called.
Sound of Music.
Let me say this again. Yeah. So Margo has got this weekend the opening night of The Sound of Music, where she's playing Maria. It's a big deal. She's been practicing for weeks, and we see in the next scene Barbara's running through lines with Margo. Which to me, this was like the hint of what was to come. I found this scene quite funny. And I was chuckling along with Margot's upset about the kid with the runny nose. And when she's trying to practice lines, she's dropping nose and dewdrops, into the lines mistakenly. And she's getting herself into a bit of a tiz.
She's in hysterics, isn't she, at one point?
She is.
I think Barbara suggests that she has a gin for Dutch courage.
Yeah, a couple of gins and you'll knock 'em dead, she says.
Shit.
Gin, it's the answer to everything apparently in this show.
I nearly regretted saying Dutch courage then. I didn't want to give you another opportunity.
So she's getting herself ready. She's preparing for these lines, and then Jerry and Tom get back and just assume that the girls have been sat there having a good gossip, not realising just how intense Margot is being, and the effort that she's putting into being Maria. It's very important to her, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, that's why she's been manipulating Miss Mountchaft and the other members of the Music Society. This is her moment, isn't it?
Absolutely. Tom shows off his haul of stuff from golf that he's picked up, all his damsons and blackberries and bits and pieces. And then Jerry drops in that Sir has asked if they can put up Mr. Van Kampen? Mr. Van Kampen from Amsterdam.
Isn't that the name of the bloody characters from The Sound of Music?
I don't think so.
Is it not? Mind you, I've never seen the fucking thing, so how would I know?
I don't think
Ignore
so,
me.
no. Van Kampen from Amsterdam. So he just sort of drops it in. Mr. Van Kampen will be stopping for the weekend and they need to look after him and put him up. And Margot goes up like a chippy because Jerry's not even remembered that this is the big weekend of The Sound of Music. And even Tom's remembered. And he says to Jerry, you're going to have to just tell him that you can't put the bloke up. It's simple. But it's not that simple, is it, for Jerry? Because he's an arse licker.
Yeah, but he does grow a pair quite quickly. He sort of says, yes,
he
that's
does.
right. He's worried about it, but he's going to do it. You know, when push comes to shove, he's putting Margot first.
He is. And we get a bit of an insight here into how it works within their business, because Barbara says, well, Tom wasn't a yes man when he worked there. And Jerry says, yeah, but he didn't make it up to the 4th floor, and that's pretty much why. If you're not an arse licker, you're not going to get up the higher echelons of this company. That's just the way it is.
Yep, we've all known them. People like Jerry, people talentless. I should be careful because ex-colleagues might be listening to this podcast, but we've all known talentless twats who just suck up to the boss.
Yep. But then, like you say, Jerry does grow a pair quite quickly. And he says, you're perfectly right. I shouldn't have forgotten in the first place. I'll just have to tell Sir no. But you can tell that he's a bit panicked, and then he excuses himself to go to the toilet. Because the prospect of saying no gives him the shits.
Literally.
We move on to the next scene and we see Tom and Barbara. So they pull up outside with their trolley full of wood to meet Jerry in the driveway, who's just come home from work, and he's been fired. He's been sacked by Sir.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
For not putting up the Dutchman.
And I was led to believe that the 70s was the time that all the unions had power, so wouldn't even... I suppose it wouldn't have been much of an episode if you just got the unions involved. Arthur Scargill comes in or something, sorts it all out. But yeah, so that was, you could get away with doing what you wanted as a boss, I suppose, in 1976.
Yeah, snidey, considering how loyal, I'm going to stop saying arselicker now, how loyal Jerry is to the company, because he really is, isn't he? He literally does everything that is ever asked of him, apart from this one instance, and yet fired.
Well, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, we do see in future episodes that there's a whole array of toadying sycophants. I think one's called Snetterton. He's Eddie's... Eddie? Who the fuck is Eddie? He is... That's you! Snetterton is Jerry's main sort of rival, isn't he? In later episodes. So clearly...
It sounds like a baddie name, that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think it's just clearly the way that you get ahead at Eddie Industries or whatever it's called. What's it called? H&M.
So this next scene was a real highlight for me. This is the scene that had me laughing initially. And we see Margo in her costume for playing Maria in The Sound of Music. So she's dressed up as a nun. Jerry's doing her makeup, bizarrely. He's busy drawing on her eyebrows and things. And he's aware that Margo is on the edge. She really is on the edge at this stage. Anything could happen. She's bemoaning the fact that the Miss Mountshaft has not bought in the proper flowers that you would find on the Alps. And these are plastic flowers that are in replacement of those, which Margo is hysterically shouting that the tat, she says. She's very upset about it.
The whole thing is tat.
Because she's, at this stage, she is like on top note. And Barbara and Tom turn up to wish her all the best, which is lovely. But they also gather that Margo is in a dodgy place right now where anything could happen. And Barbara tells Tom, whatever happens, you do not laugh. We go and watch this and you do not laugh.
Yeah, she's warning him. She knows what he's like when his silliness and also any opportunity to wind Margo up. And she's just preempting that by, she's probably going to blackmail him. There's going to be no sex for you tonight.
Yes. And then as Margo sets off to go onto the stage, Barbara and Tom just have a bit of a moment with Jerry, who's still not found another job. They said, but you've got friends? Have you not got friends that can sort of help you out in the industry? And he says, no, I've got contacts, and we boost each other's egos with large gins. But nobody seems to be there to help Jerry out, which seems quite sad, really.
It's quite a critique of... not just his industry, but I think just the rat race, isn't it? That you end up with people you don't necessarily even like them, you just play the game to get ahead, and that's what Jerry's been doing. In a later scene, Jerry and Margo note that their only real friends are the goods, and it's really sad.
Yeah, it is.
Poor Jerry's 42, and he's already over the hill, it seems.
That's how they're talking, isn't it? That this is pretty much the end for him, which you think it'd only just be starting.
I tell you what, as well, struck me. Margo, before she left this scene, she refers to Jerry finding another situation. That's like language that's sort of died out, isn't it? You don't hear people talking about... Because you used to look for situations vacant, didn't you?
Yeah.
You don't really hear jobs described as situations anymore. I mean, it is an odd way of terming it, isn't it? A situation can be anything. It's
your situation.
We're in a situation now, recording this podcast, aren't we?
Yeah. But yeah, it's a long time. And it's always sort of older TV shows that are set sort of last century, I suppose, where you'd hear that.
I'm going to try and bring the situation back.
Do it.
Yeah. Not
that
that
your
I've got
aim?
I've not got any jobs to advertise. But if I do, I'm going to make it
It's a
situation.
situation.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry.
And then we're back at home. It's all over and done with. The Sound of Music has been on the stage, and now they're back at the opening night party, back at the Ledbetters. And there were a couple of absolute moments of genius in this scene for me. When Tom is describing what he's just witnessed, the way that he describes it, for me, it really, really did tickle me. And it was the pause after he said, I mean, and then he just pauses because he doesn't really know how to put it into words. And that had me, I had to rewind it and watch it again because it really made me laugh so much.
Yeah, I'll say it again. A few mistakes agreed, but all in all, you were really, you were bloody awful.
He also asks, it was the Sound of Music, wasn't it? Because Margo had got to the stage where she'd got so confused that she sang Maria from West Side Story, which really tickled me.
I wouldn't have noticed. I've not seen Sound of Music or West Side Story, so could have got away with it for me.
Oh, I think it was the juxtaposition of those two things side by side that really tickled me, and I thought it was hilarious that she got so confused. They're busy tearing it apart before Margo comes back, and they're expecting Margo to sort of emerge into the front room with all the cast and the crew, but Margo's on her own when she turns up. But they still give her a standing ovation and clap. But nobody's coming, apparently.
No. Your heart breaks for her, doesn't it, at that point? And
it does.
And she's it's really good writing, actually, because, you know, she's a monster in many ways, Margo, but at this point, they write her response to the situation as being so pragmatic and
yes,
sort of abashed and ashamed at her own behaviour as well.
She's not overly emotional, considering right at the beginning she was so sort of on top note and emotional about all this.
Yeah.
Now she just seems to be quite crestfallen and, like you said, pragmatic about it.
And she's taken it in good humour as well. I mean, one of the recurring tropes is that she doesn't have a sense of humour, but I mean, she does. She just has a very acquired sense of humour, I suppose. But she's just taking, she's taking the fact that they are honest and saying how bad it was in her stride, and I guess it's that thing that, well, it's done now. What can I do? And it makes her.
What can I do?
And not only that, she sort of realises that she's taken her eye off what's important, which is Jerry's career, and she hasn't been supportive for Jerry. And it's a lovely little moment between the two of them, isn't it, where they, you know, shines a very favourable light on this marriage that we often see as being quite full of conflict.
Absolutely, yeah. The arguments that are between them two usually are sort of setting in the ridiculous. Where you're sort of thinking, where's this come from? Where is this going?
Yeah.
But this is like a real moment where they're both on the same page and taking sort of responsibility for their own feelings and actions and the way that they get on, I suppose. Which is this is new. We've not seen this before, have we?
No, exactly. And I think Jerry is at this stage, he's just gutted he can't open the champagne because he's the only one who wants to have it.
Yeah. He's desperate and everybody says no, and you can tell that he's a bit gutted.
Yeah. And then they're trying to cheer Jerry up, aren't they, by saying that all the best people at some point lose their jobs. And then, interestingly, Tom cites Ted Heath.
Ah.
And I thought to myself, that seems out of character for Tom. Maybe it was for Margo's benefit. But there you go, maybe not. The famous paedophile Ted Heath.
Yeah, I know.
That killed the mood, didn't it?
I know, that's brought me right down now.
Sorry about that.
So Margo heads off to bed, but then Tom decides to get on the phone to Sir.
I thought he was a cheeky bastard at first, because I thought he's just making a phone call once they've gone to bed.
Who's he ringing?
Then I realised who he's ringing.
Yeah.
I'll let him off.
Just prank calls. He's just prank calling.
It's phone in Australia.
His mouth shaft. But he's ringing Sir to try and help Jerry to get his job back, which is very kind and very thoughtful. We then see Sir turn up at Tom and Barbara's, and he's offered the Peapod wine, which I'm guessing is just a potential way to get him to sort of be on the same page as Tom and Barbara, get him pissed, and then ask him all the questions.
It won't take much with that drink, will it? Just a couple of sniffs.
You can tell, yeah. He didn't have as good a response as Mr. Coles, the reporter.
No.
I noticed.
No.
His comic timing and acting wasn't on the same level as Mr. Coles. But Sir keeps calling Tom Tim, which just fucking pisses me off, because you've golfed with the guy this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
I think people like that do it deliberately.
Yeah. So they have a chat about how great a guy Jerry is, and they're sort of pulling out all the big guns to try and convince Sir that he needs Jerry back. Tom even offers to do all the freelance work that the guys in the office can't do, and Sir's already made his mind up though that he's pretty much going to let Jerry come back.
Yeah, he's a shithouse, isn't he? He's just gone round there, wind them up, drink their free wine, and yet, having decided he can come back, he's still basically saying that he won't let him back until he gets a grovelling apology, even though he's done nothing wrong.
Yes. Yep. But he wants, Sir wants Tom and Barbara to tell Jerry the news, because he doesn't want to do it as well.
Yeah. Is this a scene where there's mention of Jerry's annual salary?
Yes. Yeah, because he says, so what does Jerry get for crawling back?
Yeah.
And Sir says he gets 18 grand a year, an expenses account, and a company car.
Well, I took the liberty of finding a website that gives you the equivalent rate for inflation.
Okay.
It's almost a quiz within the episode walkthrough. What do you think? 18,000. What's it equivalent to today?
1976.
45 years ago, more or less.
Oh my God. Do you know? I really don't know.
Well,
I really.
I'll tell you. It's
Is it three figures, or is it?
Yeah.
Is it a three-figure salary?
Three figures. It's £116,000 a year. Is it
really?
It's the equivalent.
Blimey.
So no wonder Jerry is willing to, cow down and lick Sir's boots to get his job back.
Yeah, that's understandable. Margo falls on a sword and says, well, I've cut the cleaner down to 3 days a week now instead of 5. And she thinks that's a really helpful contribution to the problem.
Can you imagine how grim it could have got for Margo if Sir hadn't given Jerry his job back? She'd have had to find a whole new way of living, wouldn't she?
It would be, yeah. For her, it would be the biggest difference, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
No wardrobe anymore. No going out for clothes. No shopping at Harrods.
No,
should be at
not.
Furman's Freezers.
Is that Reg Oldsworth's place?
Everything tinned. Oh, it would be depressing for poor old Margo. And then we see Tom and Barbara turn up to tell Jerry the good news that he's actually got his job back. And Jerry does something really weird.
Is this when he combs his hair?
When he combs his hair to ring Sir up.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Which I wondered why. Oh. And I suppose it's in preparation for sort of being back in that frame of mind, I suppose. It combed through ridiculously easily, though, for hair that looks like a Brillo pad.
Yeah, true.
I thought, yeah, I did focus quite a lot on the hair, and it seemed to, it seemed to comb a lot easier than I anticipated it would do.
Now, I'm assuming
Anyway,
that your old man had hair in the 70s.
Yeah, but it wasn't Jerry hair though.
Now, my old man also is bald as a coot now, but he had hair in the 70s, and he'd always be with a comb, and fellas always seem to have a comb. And I'm not entirely sure that these days, I don't know, I'm not the most metrosexual of people, but I've always used a brush. I've got thick hair, and I think brush was seen as the domain of women.
Ah, right, okay.
I think in the 70s, if I'd had a brush... In fact, thinking back, even in my 20s, I'd take a hairbrush to work with me, right? But I wouldn't let it be seen. And sometimes I'd brush my hair at work, and I'd do it under the desk so people couldn't see.
You'd hide away with your brush?
Yeah, because I think you'd be judged, and a man should have a comb. Is that just in my head? That was what the expectation was?
When I think back to when my mum used to talk about my dad, sort of in the 60s and 70s, it was always a comb, because he was like obsessed with making sure that it all looked as it was supposed to do. So yeah, maybe it's just, but yeah, the brush thing, I think the brush is like, I suppose it was the domain of ladies, I suppose.
I remember getting out of the shower, getting out of the bath or the shower as a child when, on those few occasions, my dad bathed me when I was very young, and he'd be dragging this comb through my scalp. You know, I had really thick hair. Combs just aren't practical for people with thick hair, are they?
No, they're not. You need a brush.
Yeah. Wise up, fellas. It's okay. Embrace the brush.
Embrace the brush. On the phone to Sir. Margo and Jerry have got their game face on big time now. They're pulling out all the big guns, offering tea. Come round for dinner. We'll have you round soon. You and Felicity. And Sir says, "Yeah, we'll be round." And we've got a whole host of Japanese businessmen to bring with us. And the scene ends, and the episode ends with Margo suggesting that she's always wanted to cook seaweed, so that's all right. The Japanese businessmen can come round as well.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what she'd make. What's she going to make with the seaweed?
No, I'm not culinary enough to suggest something off the top of my head here. I eat seaweed crackers with my hummus. That makes me sound very middle class, doesn't it? I like
crunchy seaweed from a takeaway.
Chinese or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what Margo would do with it, but I imagine she would give it a very pretentious name, though.
It'd be French, despite being a Japanese dish. I'm sure.
Loads of fashion in this episode, I thought, Al. So I'm intrigued to know what you're going to focus on in Fashion Corner. Let's have a trip over there.
Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner. Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner.
So, first of all, in Fashion Corner this week, I wanted to mention Margot's orange flowery dress that she has on earlier on in the episode. It's like a geometric print top with orange and yellow and brown sort of rectangles. It's like a long, silky maxi dress, which she tends to go for. That seems to be Margot's style. And it's obviously a very sort of 70s style as well. But she just looks amazing in it. She looked amazing, and the print was beautiful. Very sort of like Poochie looking design to it. The Burberry slacks of Jerry's, his football hooligan pants, made a re-emergence in this episode as well. Along with a couple of Jerry... Oi, oi! Jerry ties. There was a couple of ties that I've seen re-emerge now a couple of times, which you would do because the work ties, you don't tend to wear a different tie every day for work.
True.
But he's got a couple of like geometric prints, one with like swirly circles on it in really, really beautiful colours. Special mention this episode was to Margot's Maria costume. The see-through nun outfits, which we don't see it being see-through, but it is hinted that once she was on the stage and the lights hit her, it was see-through. But I think she just looked amazing when she was a nun. She just looked fab.
She gave good nun.
She did indeed. There's also when she comes back from The Sound of Music, when she's come back for her party, the first night party, she's in like a peach number. This is Margo, with some kind of animal stole around her shoulders. I'm guessing it's like a mink or a fox. Hashtag different times, but of that time, it does fit, and she just looks stunning, doesn't she? She's beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you got any fashion mentions, Ben?
Well, Tom actually looked quite smart in his suit that he went to the show in. He had a kerchief in his jacket, didn't he? He was kerchiefing it to the max. And also Barbara in her dungarees early on.
Yeah,
it's quite
same
sweet.
dungarees.
And Barbara also had her last posh frock on again.
Yeah, is that the one that she wore? Is that the same one that she wore when they went out for the meal?
Yeah, she's worn it in 3 or 4 different episodes.
Yeah.
It's one of the few television shows from the 70s which is really good for continuity. That is her last posh frock, so whenever there's an occasion that requires her to dress up, she wears it, despite the fact it looks like an eiderdown.
It does, doesn't it? It's too big for her, and it's very, very billowy.
It is, yeah.
But she could wear a bin bag, Felicity Kendall, and still look beautiful, so... we'll forgive her.
No spoilers, really, but I think we know that she's going to get another posh frock at some point in the very near future, isn't she?
Yes.
Courtesy of Tom. But yeah, nothing else for me. Did you identify a most valuable player in this episode? Or can I guess who your most valuable player is going to be?
Go on, guess.
Because I suspect it's going to be Margo. Am I right?
It is Margo. Yeah, it's Margo for being so passionate about everything that she does, regardless of what you believe and what you think about Margo and her opinions. She's massively passionate about things that she cares about. She only wanted to do the best Maria that she could do. She wanted to be the best Maria ever. But like you said before, she's quite pragmatic about the realisation of it didn't go well. And seeing that side of her in this episode, I thought was, it was nice to see and interesting to watch. And she had a good few comic, lines as well in this episode that I thought were fab.
Yeah, especially with when that boy comes in and she calls him a ghastly child. Poor kid.
Overture and beginners, you ghastly little child!
What about you, Ben?
No, same, but Margo for me as well. The portrayal of Margo by Penelope Keith is obviously fantastic, and we say that a lot. But the writing as well is superb, because some of this woman's opinions are so awful, and some of her actions are equally pretty atrocious. But they never push her too far, and they always make her redeemable and bring her back.
Yeah.
As showing what a good moral compass she has at the end of the day. And
I agree.
They did that superbly in this episode, showing that she realised what was important, and it wasn't just some, local theatre production that she was involved in. It was her husband's career and happiness.
Yeah.
And she's just so good in that role. So for me, Margo, definitely.
I agree. Did you feel in this episode that the comic writing had just stepped up a little bit?
I think it does throughout the second series. I mean, this is 5th episode, isn't it? I think we've had some pretty good ones. I think we're almost at the nexus point of the writing in A Good Life. I think it's really this series and early in the 3rd series. And I mean, they're all good, but this is the optimum point, I think. Optimal point.
Yeah. So next week, Ben, we are on to Series 2, Episode 6. Do you know what we're called?
I didn't until 30 seconds ago when we both realised that we didn't know, so we had a little pause to look it up, but now I know. It is Home Sweet Home. Tom decides he might be ready to leave Surbiton after learning of an idyllic rural farm.
Ooh.
When Barbara is hesitant, Margo could be swayed by the idea.
Margo?
I'm not entirely sure what that means. I do remember that Tom is a complete cretin in this episode, and he's not at all taking Barbara's feelings into account, which is part of the course, of course.
Of course it is, yeah.
Of course. Yeah. So join us next week, and we'll pick the bones out of that bastard for you.
Excellent. If you want to get in touch and you want to join us, catch us on Twitter and Instagram at SADDO Podcast. You can search Facebook for SADDO Podcast. We have a website, www.saddo.club. Email us at saddopodcast@gmail.com, and subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
We shall see you next week.
I'll see thee.